Ever moved into a new neighborhood and suddenly got a notice from your HOA saying you want to use that little shortcut path to the park you've been using? Or maybe they're telling you to stop parking on a strip of land you've always used. It's incredibly frustrating, right? You feel like your rights are being trampled on. But what if I told you that you might have a legal ace up your sleeve you didn't even know about? This little-known concept is called a legal easement, and it could be the key to protecting your property rights against even the most restrictive HOA. So, what exactly is an easement? Think of it as a legal right to use someone else's land for a specific purpose. It doesn't mean you own the land, but it grants you access. A common example is a utility company having an easement to run power lines across your backyard. You still own the yard, but they have the right to be there to maintain those lines. These are usually written down and recorded with the property deeds. They're called express easements because they are explicitly stated. But here's where it gets really interesting for homeowners dealing with HOAs. There are other types of easements that aren't written down, but are just as legally binding. These are called implied easements or prescriptive easements, and they can arise from the way a property has been used over a long period. Imagine a path that has been used by everyone in the neighborhood for over 20 years to get to the beach. Even if that path crosses private property managed by the HOA, a prescriptive easement might exist. This means the public has earned a legal right to use that path simply through long, continuous, and open use. Let's break down how this can help you. Say your HOA decides to build a fence and block off that very path. If you can prove that the community has been using it without permission, openly, and continuously for the number of years required by your state's lit varies, but it's often between 5 and 20 years, you could have a strong legal case for a prescriptive easement. This isn't just about convenience. It's about a right that has been established through historical use. The law recognizes that after a certain point, it would be unfair to suddenly take away access that people have relied on for decades. Another powerful tool is the easement by necessity. This applies when a piece of land is landlocked, meaning it has no access to a public road without crossing someone else's property. For example, if your property is completely surrounded by land owned by the HOA, the law will generally grant you an easement by necessity to cross their land to get to your own. The HOA can't just lock you out. The law presumes that no one would sell or buy a piece of property they can't get to. This type of easement is crucial for ensuring every property owner has a fundamental right of access. So how do you figure out if you have one of these easements? The first step is to do some research. Go to your county recorder's office and pull up the deeds and title reports for your property and the surrounding common areas. Look for any express easements that are already on record. You might be surprised by what you find. Sometimes these rights are clearly spelled out but have been forgotten or ignored over time. For prescriptive easements, you'll need to gather evidence. This is where your community can be a huge help. Talk to your longtime neighbors, get signed affidavits, old photos, or even videos that show the path or area in question being used consistently over the years. The more evidence you have of long-term, uninterrupted use, the stronger your case will be. You need to show that the use was adverse, meaning it was without the owner's permission, but also not secretive. You weren't sneaking across the land. You were using it openly, as if you had the right to. Now, let's be realistic. Taking on an HOA is not a walk in the park. They have lawyers and are often very protective of their control over common areas. If you just go to the board meeting and say I have a prescriptive easement, they might just laugh you off. This is where you need to be strategic. Start by sending a formal, written notice to the HOA board. Lay out your claim clearly and present your evidence. A well-documented letter from an attorney can be particularly effective. It shows them you're serious and you understand your legal rights. Often, the threat of a lawsuit is enough to bring an HOA to the negotiating table. They don't want to get into a long, expensive legal battle that they might lose. They might agree to formally recognize the easement or work out a compromise. But if they refuse to budge, you may have to file a quiet title lawsuit. This is a legal action where you ask a court to make a formal declaration about who has what rights to a piece of property. If you win, the court will issue an order that confirms your easement, and the HOA will be legally bound to respect it. Remember that case about the shortcut to the park? If neighbors can prove they've all been using that path for 30 years without the HOA ever giving formal permission, they have a powerful argument. The HOA can't just wake up one day and decide to block it. The community's historical usage has created a right that the law can protect. This is a powerful check on the HOA's authority and a way to preserve the character and usability of your neighborhood. So, if you're in a dispute with your HOA over access, don't just give up. Do your homework. Look into the history of your property and the neighborhood. Talk to your neighbors and gather evidence. Understand the concepts of express, prescriptive, and necessary easements. These legal principles exist to ensure fairness and prevent property owners from being unfairly restricted. Your access might not just be a convenience, it might be a legally protected right. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and taking a stand for your home and your community. Thank you so much for watching. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more tips on navigating property rights and dealing with HOAs. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had an issue like this. See you in the next video.